Hi, welcome to Right to the Top. I'm Adam. In today's video, I want to talk to you about English writing and grammar, and more specifically, I want to look at the run-on sentence, okay? And I'm going to tell you how to recognize and how to fix run-on sentences. Now, the reason I'm focusing on this is because it's a very common problem in writing, not only for test takers for IELTS and TOEFL, or for non-native English speakers. Native speakers do this all the time. It's a very common problem, very easy to fix, okay? So we're going to look at what it is, how to recognize it, how to fix it, okay? So we're going to start with the myth. A lot of people think that a run-on sentence is really just a very long sentence. But here's an example of a sentence. One sentence. This entire thing is 113 words. It is one sentence. It is not a run-on sentence. This sentence is grammatically and structurally okay. Is it a good sentence? No, but it's a correct sentence. So one thing you have to remember, length of the sentence has nothing to do with whether it's run-on or whether it's a sentence fragment, which will be a video coming soon. So what is a sentence, run-on sentence? Basically, it's when you have two independent clauses that are not properly joined. So how do you properly join two independent clauses? Well, your first option is to use a period. Basically, put each independent clause into its own sentence. Finish the first, put a period, capitalize the beginning of the next one, put a period at the end of that, and you have two sentences each correct. Another option is to use a coordinating conjunction. And, but, for, so, yet. All of these are okay with or without a comma to join two independent clauses. And that's, again, a different video. I'm going to make a video just about commas because they're a little bit confusing for everybody. But the thing I want you to remember about run-on sentences, they actually have nothing to do with commas. You cannot separate independent clauses just with a comma. You have to use one of these three tools, okay? And the last one is you can use a semicolon or a colon. It acts like a period and a comma combination, but it joins two independent clauses that have a direct relationship to each other. And if you're not sure about how to use a semicolon or a colon, at the top of the video here, you can see a link to my video about that specific lesson, okay? So now, let's look at an example. Media outlets have a duty to deliver the news with integrity. They need to vet all stories. So now, these two sentences obviously work together. How do you have integrity in your reporting as a journalist? You have to vet the stories. You have to research the truth and reliability of the sources, of the information, etc. The problem here is that the two clauses are joined by a comma. You can't do that, okay? So we're going to come back to this sentence in a moment. We're going to look at another example first. The federal government has two main functions. It builds and maintains infrastructure. It takes care of the health and well-being of its citizenry. So the underlined sentence is actually a run-on sentence, again, because you have the comma there joining the two independent clauses. So how are you going to fix this, first of all? So, one way. The federal government, now this is the best way, I think, to fix this particular sentence, because actually all three independent clauses are working together. The federal government has two main functions, colon. Colon, because I'm about to explain what those two functions are. One, it builds and maintains infrastructure, comma, and two, it takes care, etc. Okay, so join it with a comma and the coordinating conjunction. Here's another way you can fix it. And whenever you're in doubt, whenever you're stuck and you're not sure how to fix a run-on sentence, just put each independent clause into its own sentence. Two main functions, period. It builds and maintains infrastructure, period. Capital I, it takes care. Three simple sentences. Now, three simple sentences are not as good as a coordinating or as a compound sentence, but better to be simple and correct than complicated and wrong. Okay? You lose points either way, but you lose more points for having the run-on sentence rather than having the three simple sentences. Okay? Now, let's look at it another way. Now, oh, sorry, before I get to that, another thing I wanted to mention. You can use independent clauses as part of a list. You can have 3 independent clauses in one sentence. 2 of them can be joined by a comma, but you're not actually joining them. You're putting items in a list. The federal government has 3 main functions, colon, here they are. It builds, it takes, and it looks after. So when you have a list with 3, 4, 5 items, those items can be independent clauses. In that case, it's not a run-on sentence because you're not joining them as a sentence. Okay, I hope that's a little bit clear. Okay, so now, let's go back to that first sentence I showed you. So media outlets have a duty to deliver the news with integrity. Another way to fix it is with a semicolon. Because these 2 independent clauses have a very direct relationship, integrity and vetting stories are directly related. In that case, join them with a semicolon and you have a very good, actually a higher points level kind of sentence for the IELTS or TOEFL. Now, very, very, very important. Okay, I want you to note this very well. Words like however, nevertheless, moreover, etc. These are not conjunctions. These are not coordinating conjunctions. They're not conjunctions at all. These are adverbs. These are linking adverbs or transition terms. These cannot join independent clauses, okay? So joining these 2 will result in a run-on sentence. So let's look at an example. Obesity is a growing problem among today's youth. However, it is a problem that can be resolved with care and focus. I see this type of sentence all the time. This is a run-on sentence, okay? You can't do it like this. So how would you fix it? The first thing to do is change however to a coordinating conjunction, yet in this case. Okay? Today's youth, yet it is a problem. Yet has the same meaning as however. They both show a contrast. That's one option. Okay? Another option, let me get rid of this, to put a semicolon before the linking adverb, today's youth, semicolon, however, comma, it is a problem. Perfectly fine, you're using the semicolon, you're keeping the however. Let's look at another option. Again, period, today's youth, period. It is, however, a problem that can be, so you can move the however a little bit now. You can also say today's youth, period, capital H, however, comma, it is a problem that can be. Both are okay. I'm just giving you a few options here, okay? Now, let's look at it. These are examples that are directly from essays that were sent to me to check, okay? Firstly, school hours are limited. People want their children to maximize their learning. So this is a run-on sentence. School hours are limited. People want their children. So this person joined the 2 clauses with a comma. Now, I want to show you other options when it comes to fixing them. So again, first option, put in the coordinating conjunctions. School hours are limited, so people want their children. Another way is take one of the independent clauses and make it a dependent clause. And that way the 2 can work together. Firstly, as school hours are limited, or because school hours are limited, or since school hours are limited, people want their children too. And then you have a perfectly fine sentence, and you have a complex sentence, which is, again, a little bit more points for you. Another example. Now, this is called a comma splice. Technically, the other examples I showed you, joining them with a comma, that's also a comma splice. But this one is a little bit different. Some argue punishment is vital. Some argue punishment is vital to help children. You see, even as I'm reading it, I'm not sure how to read it because the comma there is confusing. First of all, some argue. Technically, this is an independent clause. This is a complete idea. Some argue. Some people argue. Well, yeah, people argue all the time. They always have fights, you know. But that's not what this writer meant. Some argue. So this is presenting an argument. And the argument is that punishment is vital to help. So what this person wanted to do was make a noun clause out of the independent clause, but forgot to add the noun clause part of it. Some argue, what? That punishment is vital to help children. So that other independent clause technically should be a noun clause as an object to the verb argue. Now the problem, again, this is what it all comes down to with run-on sentences. If you have a run-on sentence, what you're doing is you're confusing the reader. The reader has to stop, go back and try to figure out where the problem was and try to get the message of the sentence. Now, in the IELTS and TOEFL, you're hurting yourself in two ways by using a run-on sentence. One, grammar. You're losing some grammar points because you don't have complete understanding of structure. And two, you're losing cohesion and coherence points because you disturbed the flow. You made it a little bit difficult for the reader to get through to the message. Okay, so be very careful about those. And remember, I'm going to make another video about sentence fragments, which is sort of like the opposite of a run-on sentence. So if you have any questions, please ask me in the YouTube comment section. If you like the video, please give me a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and come back soon for more videos on grammar, vocab, and all the other good stuff. See you then. Bye-bye.